I made a video not too while back on the potential of a Juan Soto trade and how it can break the trade deadline in a sense with how insane the return would be for Soto, perhaps the biggest and most talented package of prospects ever. The Nationals, as you all know, have been awful this season, which is of course why they want to deal Soto in the first place and get such a large number of future pieces for him. Let's now flip over to the American League and across the country to Anaheim, California. There you will find Shohei Ohtani and the Angels. After a strong start to the season, the Angels ended up losing 14 consecutive games at one point and never recovered. They are currently about 15 games under the 500 mark and in 4th place out in the American League West Division. Now, how can a team with the literal two most talented players arguably in all of sports in Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani be so awful? It's been an issue for a while now, and as much as they want to win with those guys, it looks less and less likely by the year. With that being said, there are a couple things preventing either star from getting traded, with one big thing in particular that a lot of people wouldn't necessarily think about. As for Mike Trout, he's not going anywhere. People have thrown around the idea of trading him for a massive haul of young players and prospects for years now, but it's not going to happen, at least not this year. You can never say never, but I don't see it happening ever, honestly. As for Ohtani, the Angels front office is starting to get some phone calls regarding the two-way superstar, and none of us should doubt that they are listening to these offers. To start, let's get into what a potential Shohei Ohtani deal would look like, trade-wise, not money. According to sources, the Angels want something like a team's top 4 prospects for Ohtani. It should come as no surprise to anyone why the Angels would ask for such a big return. Shohei Ohtani was always a really good player and was so going into the 2021 season. And then he won MVP by hitting 46 home runs with an OPS over 960, stealing 26 bases and driving in 100 in 155 games. Oh yeah, and he also threw over 130 innings with a 3.18 ERA, striking out 156 hitters. As for 2022, his hitting isn't quite as great, but it's still really good, and his pitching has improved. In about 100 innings thrown in 2022, he has a 2.81 ERA with 145 punchouts. It's unbelievable, and something we literally have never seen before in any of our lifetimes. So if the Angels want to ask for a team's top several prospects in exchange for Ohtani, then they sure as hell should. With that being said, it's still a big ask and something most teams won't be willing to do. That's obstacle number 1. Then there's obstacle number 2, which I think plays a bigger factor into the whole thing. I think something that gets lost by teams especially, and sometimes even fans, is the idea of how important and impactful one player can really be. And I'm not just talking about how he helps the team win. Mike Trout has yet to be traded away. Why is that the case? Well, to state the complete obvious, he's a really good player, the best player in baseball, but it's a whole lot more than just that. If you go to an Angels game in Anaheim, what will you see everywhere you go? Kids and adults wearing jerseys. And what will those jerseys say on the back? Trout with the number 27 below the name. Trout hits home runs, hits for a good average and a really good OPS, and does so consistently every year. But he also sells jerseys, merchandise, tickets, gets people wanting to go to the games and become fans of baseball and the Angels, all because of him. The same exact thing applies to Shohei Ohtani. The biggest obstacle here isn't necessarily what teams would have to give up in return for Shohei, something that of course does play a big factor, but rather the Angels' ownership. Shohei Ohtani hasn't just put up amazing numbers hitting and pitching wise since he entered the big leagues, but he's brought people into baseball. Let's be real here. What Ohtani is a monumental player. He means so much to not just the Angels as a team, but to Anaheim as a city and for baseball as a whole. Like Trout, he's so much more than a good player. If you go to an Angels game in Anaheim, or even if the team is on the road, just like you see Trout jerseys everywhere, you will see Ohtani ones too. And on days where he pitches, it's basically a national holiday. If Ohtani left the Angels, whether by trade or in free agency, I wouldn't be shocked if the Angels' average attendance dropped something around, say, 30%. At the end of the day, the most important thing in sports is to win. That's the bottom line. If some kind of machine told the Angels ownership that they would be guaranteed a World Series title if they traded Trout and Ohtani, they'd do it in a heartbeat. But unfortunately for them, that machine does not exist. There's no guarantee that getting a ton of highly touted prospects would translate to a playoff team. I think the Angels have a really hard job to do. Obviously, every team does, but it's almost like the Angels' gig is tougher, because not only are they trying to build a winning team, but they feel they have to build a winning team without trading Mike Trout or Shohei Ohtani. And honestly, I don't blame them. The ownership sees how impactful those two are, not to just Angels games, but to Angels fans and to the game of baseball in general. And because of that, they have seemed to make it a priority to not just have any group of Angels players win a World Series title, but for Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani to win it and hold up that trophy. I'm a big advocate for analytics and advanced metrics, but I will also be the first to tell you that baseball isn't just about numbers. And sometimes the human element, what the fans want in the individual player, does matter. So could the Angels be hurting their future by not getting young future pieces for their two best players? Sure, but there's no guarantee that they can't win a World Series with Trout and Ohtani, even if it seems slim right now. The Angels' ownership isn't just looking at this situation in an analytical sense, but more so in a human sense. And until that changes, barring a shocker, I wouldn't expect Trout or Ohtani to be traded. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.